I said it before and I'll say it again. Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
What was that flip of the switch moment that permanently changed your life or perspective?
It was my first day in therapy, and my therapist said, "You seem really well adjusted for someone who's never gone to therapy. Why are you here?" And I said, "I'm a good husband, I'm a good father, I'm a good friend, I'm a good employee. But I want to be great at all those things, and I feel like if I could be great at those by myself, I would have been by now, so I'm getting help." And she said, "Employee is someone you are for your job, husband is someone you are for your wife, father is someone you are for your son, and friend is someone you are for your friends. Who are you for yourself? Who are you outside of those roles?" And then the waterworks happened, and I heard myself say, "I'm not sure there's much of a person at the end of all that." And that was the beginning of me figuring out who I was at 30-something years old. Everything changed after that.
Your brain is always looking for evidence to confirm what you have told it. So if the story in your mind is things are always shit and never working out for me, your brain is going to cherry pick everything in your life that reinforces that. This is why when people start to say things like, "Show me how it gets better. I know it can get better than this." It starts to, because your brain is going to start looking for evidence for that to be true. It's a confirmation bias, and it doesn't have to be rooted in negativity. Your brain will start to cherry pick the things that are good and that show that life has the capacity to be better. Your mind is just doing its job. It's looking for proof to reinforce the reality that you have created for yourself up there. So be intentional about the reality you're creating.
What is the best advice you've ever heard or received?
I'll give you the sentence, and if you want me to explain it, I can, but everything is your fault.
Yeah, you can explain it.
Everything is your fault comes back to like you are the CEO of your life. My very first mentor that I had, I paid $500 a month to have my first coach when I was 19, about to turn 20. And we worked together for 2 years and we had some great calls. I don't remember any of them, I remember one. And what it was I had made so many excuses as to why I was late to calls, why I didn't hit my assignments, why I didn't do what I needed to do. And he had this really tough conversation and he said, "Rob, if a business succeeds, whose fault is it?" And I was like, "I mean, what do you mean?" He's like, "If a business succeeds, all 1,000 employees move into the direction they have a successful year, whose fault is it?" That the person who orchestrated. I was like, "The CEO." He said, "If a business fails, whose fault is it?" And I said, "The CEO." He said, "Rob, if you get to the end of your life and it's not what you wanted it to be, and you didn't create the life that you wanted to, make the money that you wanted to, have the success, the love, the happiness, travel the places that you wanted to, whose fault would it be?" And I said, "It'd be my fault." And he said, "If you did create the life that you wanted to, had the love, the happiness, the abundance, everything that you wanted, whose fault would that be?" And I said, "It'd be my fault." And he said, "The problem with you is you're treating this life as if you're the victim. And what you need to realize that everything that happens to you is your fault, and that your life won't change until you decide that you want to be the CEO of your life."
Stop taking things so seriously. No one is getting out of this game alive, literally. In 3 generations, no one will even remember your name. And if that doesn't give you liberation to just drop your fucking problems and find some joy, I don't know what will. Life is inherently ridiculous and guaranteed to end sooner or later. So you might as well enjoy the ride.
It's very likely that once you are done, like, it's going to be lights out forever. Like, you are never going to experience life ever again. Like, before you were here, before you knew what consciousness was, that's what it's going to be. You are all, like, forget reincarnation, forget heaven, forget any afterlife, because realistically, it's probably not going to happen. Here's the one thing. You will never experience this version of you right now. You're not going to experience that again. Why are you living, like, under this lie that it's okay? Like, no, I still got time. I got to you don't have time. Like, wake up to the sobering fact that this might be the only experience you get to actually experience. Like, this could be it. Why are you worrying? Go fucking live. This is literally just a replay. Like, you are already dust and bones. you might as well enjoy this life, experience things, love, enjoy the simplest things. Stop stressing about this shit that doesn't matter.
You're going to realize it one day. That happiness was never about your job or your degree or being in a relationship. Happiness was never about following in the footsteps of all of those who came before you. It was never about being like the others. One day you're going to see it, that happiness was always about the discovery, the hope, the listening to your heart, and following it wherever it chose to go. Happiness was always about being kinder to yourself. It was always about embracing the person you were becoming. One day you will understand that happiness was always about learning how to live with yourself, that your happiness was never in the hands of others. One day you will realize that true happiness comes from within, and no external factors can define it. It was always about you. It was always about you.
Yeah, like if I wanted a dime when I was 5 years old and it would make me happy, if I still had a dime, then I should still be happy. But it doesn't work that way, does it? So we think that getting what I want makes me happy. But it's not what makes us happy. When we get what we want, we experience this blissful moment. When we got what we want, we don't want anything else. And the joy that we experience, the release that we experience, the happiness is not because we got what we wanted, but because we're no longer wanting. We for a moment experience the great happiness of not wanting anything.
Imagine that if you were to go a mile or less, you would walk it, and if you were to go more than a mile, you would drive it. Paradoxically, you would go 2 miles quicker than you would go 1 mile. So for instance, the friend that should leave his job, but it's just about passable, his boss isn't that much of a dick. The person that stays in an apartment that's got some mold on the ceiling, it's not too much mold. All of these people would be better off if their situations were worse, because it would galvanize them into actually doing something. If things are good, great, no problem. If things are bad, great, activation energy to go and make them good. If things are just about passable, you end up being comfortably numb. So that means that sometimes worse situations can be better than better situations. This idea called the region beta paradox.
Here is how to never get nervous again in your life. You need to understand that any time you felt nervous, you were trying to predict a future outcome that didn't exist. The feeling of being nervous is almost the exact same as being excited. Take yourself out of the present moment and you realize you're hyperfixating on how a future event will go that you once again have no control over. When you're in the present moment, you're in your body, you're in your senses, and you trust yourself. Remember that everything you've been through, every nervous experience, you've been 100% fine at the end of it. So if you can trust the present moment like you trust that grass will grow, everything will be fine in the end.
If I started out as this celestial being, this just energy, and the universe or God or whomever said, hey, do you want to go to Earth for an incredibly short amount of time, like a blip, and experience every emotion that you could possibly feel as a human? You get to have all these experiences, love, heartache, anxiety, joy, euphoria, whatever, all of it. Do you want to do that? Yeah, I do. And so when I am feeling these intense feelings, it's sort of like a reality check to step outside and say, although this is a very uncomfortable, painful feeling, it's quite beautiful that I have the capacity to experience it.
What? Oh my goodness! You're getting a new heart, John Henry. Oh, you're not matching the vibe today? You're not matching the vibe? You're not matching the vibe, John Henry? Hey, I'm getting a new heart! No!
got the new heart now? So let me ask you, what was your problem today? What upset you today? What frustrated you today? What problem ruined your day today? What argument? What happened? Somebody didn't get back to you? An email, a video, somebody made a comment? Would you replace your problem with this kid's problem? Or that mother whose son is going through that? Would you? Probably not. That's a real problem. Most of us, the guy kept a good spirit about it and the mother smiling. God bless.
I don't want you to move your lips. I don't want you to say a word, but in your head, I want you to say the word happiness. Okay? Don't say it out loud. Just say it in your head. We're all going to say it together in our mind on the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Did you say it? I'll give you one more chance. Ready? Say happiness without saying it outside of your mouth. In your head, I want you to say happiness. 1, 2, 3. Did you do it? Okay. Now my question is, who said that? Who said that? Because you said something without moving your lips. And then the crazier part about it is not only did you say it without moving your lips, you also heard it. You heard it without sound. So who said it and who heard it? You said something without saying it, and you heard something without hearing it. You are the consciousness behind all of it. That's who you are.
Just try it. Try it. If you're a parent, expect that your kids are not going to listen when you tell them to do something. No, I'm not saying accept it. Expect it. You'll see how your brain changes. If you work in an office, expect that one of your co-workers is going to say something or do something that's going to push you the wrong way. You're going to see how your day changes. I'm not saying think the worst. I'm just saying expect the possibility that maybe things will not go the way you wished for them to go, and you will notice how you are limiting how much disappointment you experience, and you're living in a world where now you get to just enjoy life as it unfolds.
Imagine the opposite of paranoia. Instead of fearing the worst, you believe the universe is constantly working in your favor. This empowering mindset was coined not too long ago, and it's called pronoia. Pronoia is when you're convinced the universe has a crush on you. So why be paranoid when you can be pronoid and expect surprise parties from the universe? Embrace this beautiful belief and watch as the world conspires to shower you with blessings. Imagine a world where every twist and turn in your journey is a wink from the universe, guiding you towards something wonderful. Lost your keys? Pronoia says it's the universe's quirky way of making you slow down and avoid that traffic jam. The unexpected detour, a scenic route to your next big adventure. Mr. Bus, there's an interesting person you meet while you wait. And when your plans fall through, pronoia winks and says, better plans are on the way. When you adopt pronoia, you start seeing opportunities where others see obstacles, and your life becomes a joyful dance with destiny.
What I want you to do is for the next week, I want you to treat everyone that you meet as if they were Jesus in disguise. Mm-hmm. And the guy left the lecture and he went home and, he gets home and, mom's there doing the dishes and he thought to himself, well, if this were Jesus in disguise doing the dishes, I'd probably go up and help my mom do the dishes. And then dad came home from work and rather than ignore him, he said, hey dad, how was work? How's everything going? And, because if that were really Jesus in disguise, I would do that. And then they're eating dinner together with the family and there's one hamburger left. And he turns to his brother and says, hey, why don't you have this? And the guy told me his life was completely transformed by literally 1 week of acting in this sort of way. That one way to God is to act in this sort of way, to act as if God exists.
Right.
To act as if other people are Jesus in disguise.
What about the concept of coddling children? And what about the concept of creating, what someone would call a mama's boy?
It happens, but why does it happen? So there's a study that I quote in the book where they looked at 1,000 or 700 women, new mothers, and how they related to their infants. And most of them related very well. Some were not that available, and some were extra doting and extra coddling, you might say, with their infants. They looked at the adults 35 years later. The people that were the most independent and successful and self-actualized were the ones that were super loved by their mothers. Conclusion of the researchers was, you can't love children too much. Now the case that you describe is not too much loving, but loving that comes from a very anxious place. So these mothers that coddle their kids when the kids doesn't need coddling, They're not doing it because the child needs it. They're doing it because they need it. They're doing it because they were not coddled enough. They're anxious, and they pass that anxiety onto the child. You don't create those dependent kids by loving them. You create them by imposing your own agenda on them, your own anxieties on them. So those are the mama's boys, if you want to call them that. But the mama's boy is just a very anxious person who downloaded his parents' or her parents' anxieties.
If you deal with being sad by treating yourself to unhealthy stimulants, your brain will learn that the way to get those stimulants is to be sad, and you will become addicted to being sad.
This is probably one of the heaviest hammer blows, I think. You've already achieved goals you said would make you happy. You've already achieved goals you said would make you happy.
For my own personal benefit, what are some questions you think I should ask myself?
If money and status were no object, what would I do? If I was less afraid of other people's opinions, what would I say? What actually makes me happy? Does success make me happy? What is my definition of success? What is my definition of success if money was taken out of the equation? What is my definition of success if money and followers were taken out of the equation? What are the things that I'm hiding from myself? What are the emotions that I'm unprepared to feel? What are the things that I feel the most shame and guilt around? Those are some. And most of them are you trying to unpack assumptions about yourself. It's like, hey, I think this thing, but I really don't know if I do. And I really want to work out if that's right. Let's stress test it a little bit.
A guy who's always angry is a guy who's always depressed. Women get emotional. Men don't like feeling emotional, so they get angry. They don't like feeling weak, so they get angry. They don't like feeling defeated, so they get angry. They don't like processing their pain or their hurt or their trauma, so they get angry. What happens when a man gets angry? He feels strong. Testosterone fires, endorphins fire, you're on your front foot, you're in the fight or flight cycle, you're strong, you're not weak. So most men who are angry are depressed, and they're manifesting their depression with male anger, and their manifestation is different than women. This is what I'm telling you.
You get used to how great your life is. No one had a hot shower until 50 years ago. So I try and do this thing when you stand in a hot shower. George Mack, my friend, pointed this out to me. Well, look, when you stand in a hot shower, just for a moment, just go, well, no one that you admire from 100 years ago had this simple pleasure in life. And when you look at the world that we live in, we're like, there's been 100 billion people ever, right? We are in the top percentile in terms of the luck that we have had. The lives, like the calorific intake that we just take for granted, the fact that our children don't die, in the first year, the modern medicine and our lives and the entertainment that we get. We're living like kings. And yet, life has never been objectively better and subjectively worse, because the nature of humanity is our desires are mimetic. So we've got this thing where we sort of, how happy are you?
And if I wanted to sit here right now and talk to you about something sad, I could bring up something that's sad to me, and in 1 minute I could be bawling.
But the happiness, it's kind of like I had to either work at it or just like accept this new version of happiness. And with my daughter,
it's free again.
It's more than it ever was. It's crazy to have someone pull that out of you, and it's at the ready, and it's just limitless. It's like, I don't need anything. It's like, I don't need to access it. If I hear her voice, if she walks in the room, if I look at a photo of her right now, something happens to my body. Like,
that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Like, fear is not real. It's not. Fear. False evidence appearing real. It's not real. It's not. I have fears. So I'm not saying this is like, oh, I don't have any. No, like, I have fears. But then in that moment, I know that that's just Derek. That's DG. That's not me. I don't feel fear. Derek does. So I have to, like, be aware that that's just the ego creating a narrative so it can continue to exist. So how do I get behind me? What are you talking? These fears. Wait. What? And then I get to the root of why the fear exists. Oh, that's a program. I got taught to fear this. Mommy and daddy taught me that because they feared it. Why do they fear? Oh, because their mom and dad. You see, fear gets passed down. So this is how you break the generational curse of fear. You look them up, you look them in the face. You look fear in the face and say, what's your name? Where'd you come from? Why are you here? Let me see what you smell like. Don't run from it. Fear wants you to keep running from it. Fear is darkness. Darkness cannot exist where there's light. Light is your awareness. So the more aware I become of it, the more I will see that the darkness was merely an illusion. Darkness is not darkness. It's just simply the lacking of light.
Read recently, I think it was some TikTok thing I saw, but it was an old business guy, and he was saying, the real definition of success in life is not money or material things or anything like that. The real definition of success is if you're a father and your kids, when they become adults and therefore can make their own decisions, choose to hang out with you because they want to hang out with you. That's the ultimate definition of success. What do you think of that theory?
Oh yeah, that's right. I would say I feel that acutely. I would say my wife feels that even more acutely. Like, she's so thrilled if her kids want to hang out with her, if they want to do committed things with her, that she can hardly stand it. And this is also one of the great advantages of having a family. People just don't understand this. There isn't anything more important that you will have in your life than your kids, period. We lie to young women so terribly by telling them that their career will be where they find the meaning in their life. I have a stellar career, and I'm pretty damn thrilled about it, and I should be, but it takes second place to my wife and my kids, and then to my extended family.
You're manifesting everything that you are complaining about too. I'll say that again. You are manifesting everything that you are complaining about too. God will not know if you're praying or complaining.
Make your move before you're ready. I'll tell you where big dreams go to die. They go to the planning place, getting ready place, preparing myself. And it's the biggest con job we work on ourselves. There are so many bones of big dreams in that graveyard. It's always something. There's always going to be a set of reasons to wait. It's always something.
The quote that I've fallen in love with: the magic you are looking for is in the work you're avoiding. Fuck, dude. The magic you are looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
One of your fathers, for sure, stood on the earth with a sword in his hand on a battlefield. For sure. Your ancestor, yes, that's true. Your blood, your DNA. He might have killed somebody, or he might have been killed, but he created a son first. Who created a son? Created a son, who created a son. All the way down to you. Imagine that. There were men that were standing beside him 1,000 years ago who have no living sons today. The implication of that is, through all the wars and pestilence and disease and famine and migration and persecution that happened in the last 1,000 years, your bloodline survived. You have the blood of champions. You had that father who stood on a battlefield with a sword in his hand, fierce, and we're afraid to talk to this girl drinking coffee.
It's been the most memorable time period of your life.
Being married to my wife for 51 years. I'll never forget her. We were a perfect couple and enjoyed each day together. And when I lost her, I lost my life. So I'm just existing now till I go and join her. And I'm 93 years old, so I don't have much time left, I'm sure. But if you're lucky, you'll find a woman like I did who will never argue, never fight, never do anything against you, and she'll love you and you'll love her the rest of your life too. It's all you can ask for is a good partner.
What are some of the important principles to consider when you're in a disagreement with your partner?
Okay, so I say 3 tips, right? First and foremost, you have to remember that you are not the problem and your partner is not the problem. The problem is the problem, and it's up to the two of you to work together on the same team in order to resolve that problem. That's first and foremost, okay? Secondly, what's important, you cannot win a battle without losing the war. The minute that you were pitted against your partner in a conflict, if you won, that means they lost and ultimately your relationship loses. So you never ever want to be in that position. And then last but not least, when somebody tells you that you've hurt them, you don't get to decide that you didn't. And so if you don't respond to your partner's hurts and wounds in a relationship, you will lose them and your relationship every time.
That's real.
Chill. Just chill. Continue to have fun. Now, by fun, I'm not recommending you go out, drink your brains out at the bar and do something stupid, but my goodness, go hunting, go fishing, get a mountain bike, go hiking, go to the gym, go hang out around a barbecue fire with friends and just act silly and act goofy and be your age. Be your age and just embrace the process. And don't look for what you are supposed to be fully, completely polished, sharpened, edged, tempered at 26 or 36, at 46. You've got a lot more forge time left. You've got a lot more hammer blows left, and it takes time. But if you will patiently embrace the process, then by the time you get up in years, you can be a man that you're proud of.
You know, I don't know if I'm living sometimes or if I'm doing a to-do list.
Stress is a sign that you've lost the present moment. The next moment has become more important than life itself.
When I'm depressed, if I can get into that quiet space, it's the space that's noticing the thoughts. So if you think, I'm hungry, we always just think that I'm hungry is the thought in the animal, and then we eat, and it goes, thank you. Who's talking to who, really? I would say that the thought is talking to your awareness, your base awareness, your witness. So that's what's watching your thoughts. And if you can get into that, you see how impartial and unswayed by your life circumstance this witness really is. It's just there. It's neutral. It's just isness. It's just this. And it's just watching. It's compassionate, it's involved, it's invested, but it's not really as connected and tied to the events of your life story as you are, as your false self is. I found it helpful, and this is something Ram Dass taught me, is instead of identifying with the depression and saying, I am depressed, what I'm thinking is, there is depression.
I was like scrolling through my feed. I like saw something and it was like really, really sad. And I started to cry. And I was like, this is so touching and so moving. And I swiped to the next video. All of my emotions flatline. And I was like laughing at the next video. When I took a look back on what had just occurred, I was like, that is horrifying. All of a sudden, in 30 seconds, I've gone from experiencing what I think to be like human emotion to turning it off and like living in this like, haha, this is so silly. Reflecting on that, that's why I was like, I am deleting this. I can't do this to my brain.
I think our parents were right, it was the damn phones. We laughed when we were children, hearing it's that Snapgram and InstaChat and Face Talk. They didn't understand, they couldn't even say it right. We thought we knew better than them. They didn't know what it was like having a world at the tip of our fingertips. We scroll through the trash so much we have headlines tattooed on our skin, wires for veins, AI for a brain, and they may not have understood, but they were right. It is the damn phones. A drug in my pocket dependent on stimulation, but can we blame us? We were but children when they were given. We didn't know how to stop it. If I added up all the hours I spent on a screen, existential dread and regret would creep in, so I ignored this fact by typing away. And it's not like I can throw away my phone. It's how we communicate, it's how we relate, it's the medicine that is surely making our souls die. I used to say I was born in the wrong generation, but I was mistaken, for do I not do everything I say I hate? When I look in the mirror, I see a ghost staring back. I try not to think too much about who I would be without technology. The character behind my phone screen has become self-aware, almost worse than being naive, for I know it's poison, but I drink anyways. We used to be scared of robots gaining consciousness, a lie by the media companies to distract us, as to not ourselves become conscious of the mess they created. We are the robots, we are the product, so I sit and I scroll and I rot and repeat. Sit and scroll and rot until my own thoughts are what is being fed to me on TV, until my own feelings are wrapped up in celebrities, until my body is a tool of my political identity, and so I sit and I scroll and I rot. And so I post on the internet how the internet has failed us so that I may not fail my internet presence. I think our parents were right. It was the damn phones.
I can tell you the meaning of life right now, but you won't like it. Nobody does. The meaning of life is just to experience life. The meaning of life is to enjoy things, try things, learn to hate things, dislike things, find people you love, learn to love yourself, experience the world, living. That's all there is to it. People try and add meaning to that because they're insecure that they're insignificant, but you are insignificant. That's the beauty of it. That's the significance of it. You can do whatever you like and it doesn't matter. In 80 years, nobody's even going to remember you.
Okay, I'm listening to a podcast and I just heard this question and I need to share it out loud before I forget it because it is so good. If you were the main character of the movie in your life and you have an audience watching the movie, what would the audience be screaming at you to do? What is it and what needs to change? Isn't that so good? Think on that today.
Tell me, what is something they told you in school that you found out is a complete lie?
Welcome to the idiocracy effect. The world is dumbing itself down on purpose. You're experiencing something I call the idiocracy effect. The suffocating feeling of being trapped in a society designed for the lowest common denominator. It was inspired by the 2006 film Idiocracy, which imagined a future where stupidity spreads unchecked, making intelligence a rare and endangered trait. The movie was supposed to be a joke. Instead, it became prophecy. And here's the terrifying truth. Once a population stops thinking, it becomes easy to control. We live in an era where emotion beats logic. People react to headlines instead of processing facts. Debates resemble playground arguments. Screaming is louder than reason. People seek validation, not truth. Beliefs matter more than reality. This isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. Because once a society stops valuing intelligence, that intelligence begins to vanish.
Did you know you can manifest anything you want? And if you do this one simple trick, it will change the course of your life. Try this here today. When you wake up, or if you're seeing this video, tell your brain what you want to have happen today. But tell your mind this. Mind, today we're going to find a wonderful day. We're going to have everything in this day go so smoothly. I only want you to find things that serve me and serve this manifestation. Give that a shot. See how fucking great your day gets.
Shut up. Listen. This is so important. Parents are awful at listening. You've heard of active listening? Yeah. So active listening, it's like so simple. Child says something. Before you give your 2 cents, just repeat it back and sort of listen to the feelings behind the words. I want to have blue hair. I know what my dad would have said, but it's not, I want to have blue hair. No way in hell, as long as you live in my house, you're going to have blue hair. But what does that do? It just shuts down the conversation or starts a fight. Like, oh, you want to have blue hair? And then just be quiet. And then the child might say, everyone's doing that. My dad would say, I don't care what anyone else is doing. As long as you live in this house, you're not going to have blue hair. If they're going to jump off a cliff, are you going to go with them? Not helpful. Sounds like you want to be like the other kids. And then he might say, sometimes I feel like I don't fit in. Which is really the conversation you want to have. It's just helpful to listen. If you have time and you have listening, you bond. And then the kids tend to pick your values because they're bonded. And then when they make a mistake, don't rescue them. Today, parents do way too much for their children. And they steal their self-esteem. I often say, if you do too much for your kids, you build your self-esteem by stealing theirs.
Wow, so your brain doesn't really know the difference between, say that again?
Between something that happened in real life or something that you strongly visualize.
So you could create enough of a visualization for yourself if you really were to powerfully start to focus on it and do that and build that ability to visualize something that your brain at one point would have to think it's so true that the world would meet you and put it into your life.
I love the way you put that.
Wow.
So what's the biggest mistake that you see people making in romantic relationships?
There's this beautiful poem that I came across, and I've never been able to find it again. But it was this concept that when you're growing up, you're raised by your parents and your family, and you start constructing your house out of bricks. And the house you build independently has some holes in it, it has some broken bricks, and it has some perfect bricks. The bricks you got from your parents, some of them are broken. Some of them have loads of gaps in those walls. But you've been constructing a house. And that person that you end up deciding to spend your life with, they've got a similar home that they've been building. And when we end up meeting someone, we often want them subconsciously to come and live in our house.
Right.
So we want them to leave their broken home behind and come and live in our broken home. Because we think the way we've been raised is right. Now, what we don't realize is that person also wants us to leave our house and go and live in their broken house. And what this poem was suggesting is actually what you need to do is pick up the best bricks that you laid at your home, and they pick the best bricks that were laid in their home, and you need to come and build a home together. And that's really what a relationship is about. It's about taking the best of what you had and find a way to construct a home together.